I was 21 when this happened. It was 2017, and at that time, I was working part-time at a gas station a few towns away from where I lived. It was one of those jobs I only planned to keep for a few months, just until I figure out what I wanted to do next. The shifts were usually easy. I mostly rang up snacks and cigarettes and things like that, more than people paying for gas with cash. During the day, it was annoying but normal. The nights were different. The nights felt long. The place felt too bright inside and too dark outside, and every customer felt a little strange. That night, I was working the closing shift by myself, and I still think about it all the time. The store closed at midnight. Around 9 or 10 at night, the phone started ringing. I answered without thinking anything about it. The second I picked up, I heard a weird voice. It was low and stretched out, like someone trying to sound like a killer in a horror movie. It reminded me right away of Ghostface from Scream. It sounded very forced, like someone trying to copy a voice, but it was still scary. The voice asked if I was all alone in the store. I stayed quiet for a second, then said something sarcastic like, "Yeah, you got me." And then I hung up. I thought it was one of my friends joking with me. I texted the group chat and asked which one of them was calling the store pretending to be a serial killer. They all found it funny and acted confused at first. One of them asked what I was talking about. Then another said he was at home. I thought they were just lying because that would be the obvious thing to say if they want to keep the joke going. About 10 minutes later, the phone rang again. It was that same fake horror movie voice. This time, they asked why I hung up. I again sarcastically said, "All right, you got me." The voice let out a soft laugh that sounded strangely real, not playful like I expected. Then it said, "I shouldn't be rude to people who know where I am." I hung up again, but this time I felt a little uneasy. It was probably still a joke, but something about how calm the person sounded bothered me. I kept trying to ignore it. Customers were still coming in at that time, enough to keep me busy. People getting gas, buying beer, and getting lottery tickets. But every time it got quiet, I found myself looking at the phone. It rang a third time around 10:40. I answered, and I immediately wished I hadn't. The voice asked if the store always got this quiet that late. That scared me more than I want to admit. I said nothing and hung up. After that, I texted my friends again, this time more seriously. I said it was getting old and asked who was doing it. Again, they all said it wasn't them. I started messaging them one by one. It was the same thing. One was with his girlfriend. One sent me a picture from his basement. One was at a friend's house almost half an hour away. At that point, I started getting annoyed instead of scared. I thought maybe they got someone else to do it. But the truth was, even though the caller never said my name, he was saying things that matched what was happening in the store, like how quiet it was. Around 11 o'clock, the calls started coming closer together. I stopped answering after the fifth one. The phone would ring, and I would stare at it and let it stop on its own. Then a minute or two later, it would ring again. That went on for maybe 15 minutes. I started checking the cameras more. There were a few outside the building and a few inside. The store was by itself near a road that got very quiet at night. There was a small area of woods behind one side of the building and an alley-like area where the dumpster was. The outside cameras weren't very good. They had blind spots, and the picture at night was blurry. Still, I kept switching through them, half expecting to see one of my stupid friends crouched outside laughing. I didn't see anyone. Then I started hearing small sounds outside, which at first I told myself were nothing, like a tapping sound somewhere. Then something like a light scrape near the sidewall. Then a noise at the back that sounded like someone stepping on loose gravel. It got to a point where I couldn't ignore it anymore. I texted the group chat again and told them to seriously stop. I even sent a picture of the empty store and wrote that this wasn't funny anymore. They kept saying it wasn't them. One of my friends actually called me from his normal number, and I told him what was happening. He sounded truly confused and said he wasn't joking and wasn't part of anything. He told me to lock the door early if I had to. I didn't want to do that unless I really felt I needed to. Part of me still thought I was overreacting. Around 11:40, one last customer came in. I remember the exact sound of the door opening because it made me jump. I looked up and saw a normal-looking guy at first, maybe late 20s or 30s. Nothing strange about how he looked. He wasn't dirty or dressed oddly. He just had a blank face. He didn't say hello. He just walked in and started moving through the aisles. I watched him on the cameras while pretending not to. He took way too long for someone who ended up buying one bag of chips. He kept moving between aisles and then stopping. More than once, I saw the top half of his face appear above the shelves while he looked toward the counter. Not in a normal way either. I felt like he was watching me. I kept thinking maybe he was high or tired or just deciding what to buy. But my stomach felt heavy, like my body already knew something was wrong before my mind accepted it. He stayed in there for at least 8 or 9 minutes. Then, he finally came to the counter with a bag of chips. He still didn't say anything, so I didn't either. I just took the chips and scanned them. When I looked down at the register, everything felt normal for 1 second. Then I looked up and caught him staring directly into my eyes. He held it for maybe 2 seconds. It doesn't sound long, but there was no expression on his face. Then he looked down and paid. I handed him the bag, and he turned and walked toward the door. I remember thinking maybe I was overreacting. Maybe he was just a strange guy. But right as he reached the door and pushed it halfway open, he stopped and turned his head back toward me without turning his whole body. His chin was slightly lowered, so his eyes looked up at me. Then he smiled. I still don't know how to explain that smile without sounding dramatic. It looked like he knew exactly. He looked and was doing it on purpose. It made every hair on my body stand up. Then he stepped outside, and instead of walking toward any pumps or car, he walked around the side of the building. As he did it, he kept looking at me through the glass. He kept that smile too. I just stood there watching him until I couldn't see him anymore. Then I rushed to the camera monitor and followed him there. I saw him go around the building toward the side with the woods. Then he disappeared into the blind spot behind the building. He didn't come back out. I waited maybe 10 seconds, then 20, then a minute. He never came back. That was enough for me to lock the door early, even though it was a little before midnight. This part might sound dramatic, but I texted my family and friends and told them there was a creepy guy outside, and I wasn't joking anymore. I said if I stopped replying, it meant something probably happened to me because of him. I rushed through closing as fast as I could. I barely cleaned anything. I kept checking the cameras again and again, expecting to see him come back. Nothing. Midnight came, and I decided I couldn't stay there any longer. I grabbed my things, turned off what I needed to, and went to the front door. I unlocked it and stepped out. And the moment of locking it again was so tense, I couldn't do it fast enough. Once I did, I ran to my car. It was parked to the side of the building. I got most of the way there, and just as I reached it and slowed for a second, I heard fast footsteps, not running, but worse, like fast walking steps hitting the ground in front of the store. I turned and saw him. It was that guy. He came from the front corner of the building and was moving fast toward me and my car. I pulled my car door open and jumped inside. I locked the door and started the engine so fast, I almost messed it up. The second the car started, I reversed and sped out of the lot. I looked once in the mirror and saw him standing there in the light, watching me leave. The whole drive home, I sent voice messages and texts to everyone saying I was right, that I knew he would come out of nowhere. None of it was a joke anymore. The next day, I texted my boss and told him exactly what happened. I said I wasn't working night shifts anymore. He watched the footage later, and his response made me even angrier. He got defensive and said the guy looked like a normal customer to him. He said maybe I got scared because of the phone calls and connected things that weren't related. That made me very angry. I was the one there. I was the one getting the calls. I was the one who saw that guy disappear and then come fast walking toward me when I left. I didn't care if the footage didn't show how it felt because I knew what happened. I quit right after that. I didn't even argue much. I just told him if he thought that was normal, he could work the closing shift himself. I started that job with attitude, and I was proud of it. Even now, many years later, I still think the caller and that guy were the same person, even if I can't prove it. My name is Cadence. I worked the closing shift at a small bar in the quiet part of my town. The place is near the highway, but the parking lot also has a back entrance open to the town. It's nothing fancy, just a dim place where regulars know each other, and the music is always the same old rock songs. Most customers are locals, truck drivers, and sometimes lost tourists looking for a strong drink. I like it though. The routine is simple. The tips are good. And I've learned how to handle different people. The talkers, the flirts, the quiet ones, and the ones who want to be left alone. Weekends are busier, but during the week, I work alone at night. I don't even get help sometimes. It's easier and slower, but I miss having coworkers. I stay very alert during my shifts because sometimes fights happen. That's why I noticed the guy right away. It was after 1 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday when he came in. I think he was in his late 40s, but he looked very neat and clean. Not what you expect in this area. He wore a black turtleneck and a black coat. He looked well dressed but casual. He had a calm, rich kind of presence. Not flashy, but noticeable. He looked around slowly, then came to the bar and sat down. I also remember his posture was very straight. When I went to him, he looked at the bottles and ordered an expensive drink without thinking. While I made it, he asked if I liked working there, smiling. It seemed normal, so I answered honestly. I said yes and smiled. I made a small joke too. I didn't feel scared of him. He seemed like a nice man, like a kind dad at a baseball game. He talked with me a bit, and I didn't mind because it was quiet. Then he asked if I ever thought about doing something bigger, which felt strange, but not scary. I smiled and said I was happy for now. He nodded and drank, looking disappointed. After a pause, he suddenly asked what time I finished work. That surprised me. I didn't think he was flirting before, so I felt a bit disappointed. I gave a vague answer and tried to move on. I started cleaning the counter. He didn't push. He just smiled like he already knew. Then he finished his drink, placed a $100 bill on the bar, and left without another word. I didn't know what to think. It seemed normal, but also strange. I thought I would never see him again, but I was wrong. A week later, he came back with a woman. She caught my attention. She looked mid-30s, but dressed younger. Stylish, but not quite right. I watched her as they came in. Everything about her felt planned. The way she smiled, the way she leaned on the bar like we were friends. When I placed napkins, she didn't say hello. She smiled brightly and said, "You're so pretty." Her hand touched my arm a little too long. I thanked her, but something felt wrong. The man didn't talk this time. They ordered drinks. Then she started asking questions. How long I worked there, my age, and more. I answered shortly. It didn't feel like normal talk. It felt like she was studying me. She looked at the man once, like they were communicating silently. Then she told me she ran a private event club. She leaned closer and lowered her voice. She said they look for young people for private parties, and I could earn a lot of money. I laughed nervously, should step outside to meet someone who could explain better. My heart raced. I said firmly, "I'm good." No smile this time. Then a group of customers came in loudly. Her expression changed slightly. Then she and the man left. I felt very uneasy. I told my coworkers and boss. We agreed to watch for them. My boss said he could come quickly if needed. Cameras were there too. I tried to forget it. But a few nights later, after closing, I saw a car across the street, engine off, just sitting there. I felt watched. I walked to my car, holding my keys tightly. When I drove off, the car followed. It stayed far but followed every turn. I turned randomly. It followed. I got scared. I drove straight to a police station. The moment I pulled in, the car sped away. Nothing happened for a while, but I knew it wasn't over. One slow night, I was about to close early when the door opened. It was a woman. I secretly texted my boss. She came in smiling the same way. She sat at the bar and said, "Thought I'd check on you." I felt sick. I told her we were closing, and she had to leave. She asked for one drink. I made it to delay time. Then I heard the front door click. I turned. She was gone. I looked outside and saw a black van. I locked the door quickly. Then I heard noise at the back door. Someone was trying to get in. I grabbed a metal shaker and called 911. I thought about running, but stayed. Then headlights came. It was my boss. The noise stopped. The van sped away. My boss got the plate number. The police came. The footage showed two masked people near the front door waiting. Another person was at the back door trying to force me out. It was terrifying. The plate was fake. Nothing has happened since. But I don't work alone anymore. Still, I feel uneasy. I often wonder what would have happened if I ran outside. I used to work night shifts at a gas station on a quiet highway. After what happened, I will never do that again. It was a small station. Not many customers late at night. I spent time cleaning and stocking. It was around 2:30 a.m. No one was around. I was on my phone. I stepped outside for air. It was cold. The lot was empty. Then I saw movement. A person stood behind a pump, wearing a red hoodie. No car, just standing and watching me. I went inside but kept watching. After a few minutes, he came to the door and walked in. He stared at me, then said his car broke down and he needed help. It sounded fake. I offered to call help. He refused, asked for a flashlight. Something felt wrong. I asked where his car was. He pointed at the screen. There was a car. Then I realized I had just been outside. There was no car. I looked again and saw movement near it. Someone hiding. I felt scared. I pretended to help and went to press the panic button. The alarm rang. He changed instantly. He relaxed and smiled, then ran. I checked cameras. Two people ran into the woods. The car was empty. Police came. The car was stolen. No answers. I quit. I now work at Walmart night shift. One night, a man kept watching me. Then a woman grabbed me, pretending to know me. She whispered that he was recording me. She pulled me away. I trusted her. Then I realized she was taking me to an exit. I pulled free and ran. She shouted my name. Security checked cameras. They came together. It was planned. Police said it was a failed kidnapping. I still don't know how she knew my name. That scares me the most.